Welcome back to Grimverse History, where we uncover the strange and forgotten sides of history. Tonight, we step into Imperial Rome to uncover what really happened to an emperor's wife, the moment he died. When a Roman emperor died, his wife should have become untouchable. But in Rome, protection could vanish before the body even grew cold. The same guards sworn to defend the emperor often became the first to surround his wife. Not to comfort her, not to protect her, but to decide her fate. You stand at the edge of a cold marble corridor, hearing distant footsteps echo like a warning. The air is heavy with oil lamps, iron, and something unspoken, like fear that has learned to breathe. If this journey into Rome's hidden past speaks to you, consider liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications, so you don't miss what history tried to forget. It is the year 192 AD. Emperor Commodus is gone, and in the palace, the Praetorian Guard is already deciding what comes next. The marble beneath her knees is still warm with blood. Livia Marcella, only 26, can feel it seeping through the fine silk of her stola as she kneels beside her husband's lifeless body. The metallic scent of iron fills the air, blending grotesquely with the delicate perfume she had chosen that morning for a dinner that will now never take place. Beyond the walls of the imperial bedchamber, the sound reaches her. Hobnailed boots, many of them, perhaps dozens or even hundreds, moving through the corridors with a chilling sense of purpose. It is a sound that tightens her chest with sudden understanding. Just 17 minutes ago, she was Augusta, Empress of Rome, wife of Gaius Aurelius Maximus, the most powerful woman in the known world. She once presided over a household of 3,000. She welcomed ambassadors from Parthia and listened to petitions from senators. She wore imperial purple, a color forbidden to all but her family, dined from gold, and slept on silks brought from the furthest reaches of the empire. Now she kneels in her husband's blood, while the very men who murdered him take control of the palace. And with a clarity that feels almost unbearable, she realizes that the purple she wears no longer protects her, it marks her. The door opens. A man steps inside, tall and composed, perhaps 45 years old, clad in the unmistakable armor of the Praetorian Guard. Draped over it is a red cloak, marking him as prefect. His face is not unfamiliar. She has seen him before at official ceremonies, at morning salutations, at formal dinners where matters of war were discussed over wine and roasted peacock. Lucius Cassius Nerva. 17 minutes ago, he had sworn to protect her husband with his life. Now he studies her with an expression devoid of triumph or cruelty. Something colder, more calculated. He is assessing her, as one might assess an object that has suddenly become inconvenient. Augusta, he says, the title sounding almost experimental on his tongue, as though he is unsure it still applies. My condolences on your husband's sudden illness. Illness. Her eyes drift to the body beside her, the stab wounds in the chest and abdomen, the defensive cuts across his hands, the blood that has spread across half the chamber floor. So that is what we are calling it? She asks quietly. That is what the Senate will be told, Nerva replies. The emperor succumbed to a sudden fever, resistant to all treatment. His passing was peaceful. With his final breath, he named Titus Flavius Severus as his successor. My husband despised Severus, she says. He was preparing to charge him with treason, which is precisely why it was necessary to act before those plans could take shape. Nerva steps closer, his boots leaving dark impressions in the blood. Severus is 3 days' march from Rome with the Pannonian legions. He will arrive to find the city calm, the succession orderly, the transition complete. And he will be grateful to those who ensured it. And what of me? She asks, steadying her voice with effort. What becomes of the emperor's widow? Nerva's faint smile carries no warmth. That depends on your cooperation, on your usefulness, and on how much trouble you choose to cause during the interregnum. The interregnum? The interval between your husband's death and Severus's arrival. 72 hours, perhaps a little more. His tone remains even. During that time, the Praetorian Guard controls Rome, the palace, everything within these walls. The meaning settles heavily inside her. 72 hours. 3 days in which the man who orchestrated her husband's death holds absolute power over the palace, over its inhabitants, over her. What do you want? She asks. For now, information. The emperor kept records, names, suspicions, evidence, plans. Such documents would be problematic in the wrong hands. I need to know where they are. And if I tell you, you demonstrate cooperation. Cooperation is rewarded. And if I refuse, his expression does not shift, but something colder flickers in his eyes. Then you demonstrate the opposite. And the guard has long established methods for dealing with the households of fallen emperors. Methods I imagine you would prefer not to experience. He leaves the threat unspoken, allowing her imagination to complete it. I need time, she says. You have until midnight, he replies. After that, I will assume your answer. He turns to go, then pauses. One more thing. Your stepdaughter, along with 3 women from your husband's private household, has been taken to the guard's quarters for questioning. Their treatment will depend on the same considerations as yours. He exits. The door locks behind him. She hears the guards take their positions outside, hears the palace being methodically secured by men whose loyalty has already shifted. 8 hours. That is all she has. 8 hours to decide how, if at all, she will survive. What follows is a story rarely told. Historians recorded the deaths of emperors in terms of politics, who rose, who fell, which factions prevailed. They documented the fates of male relatives with precision, execution, exile, or quiet survival. They noted property transfers, titles reassigned, and the reshaping of power. But what happened to the women left behind was often left in silence. Yet the fate of imperial women during the interregnum, the fragile interval between one emperor's death and the secure rise of another, was almost never described in detail. A widow might be briefly noted as having withdrawn from public life or slipped quietly into private obscurity. But the reality of that transition, what it truly required and what it cost, remained deliberately unspoken. The women of the imperial household did not so much leave the record as vanish from it entirely. Their experiences in those perilous hours left to speculation, or perhaps to silence by design. Tonight, that silence will be broken. You will come to understand what unfolded within those guarded walls when the emperor's protection disappeared. You will learn about the Praetorian Guard, the elite soldiers sworn to defend the emperor, and what became of their loyalty once that oath no longer bound them. You will see how the interregnum developed into an unspoken system, an arrangement never formally written yet widely understood, in which the guard claimed certain privileges during the transition of power. And you will follow the story of Livia Marcella, whose husband's assassination left her exposed to the very men who had orchestrated his death. You will hear what Prefect Nerva demanded, what she chose to risk in order to survive, and what became of the other women confined within the palace during the 72 hours before the new emperor's arrival. If you wish to understand what truly happened behind the walls of Rome's palaces during its most dangerous transitions, consider subscribing and sharing where you are watching from. Because the next 8 hours of Livia's life will determine everything, and you are about to witness, in full, what she endured and how she responded. But before we step fully into her choices and the shadows she was forced to confront, we must first go back. To understand her vulnerability, you must understand the system that made it inevitable. You must see how the Praetorian Guard came to wield such power, how the traditions of the interregnum took shape, and what it meant to be an imperial woman at the precise moment when an emperor died. The Praetorian Guard stood as Rome's most formidable military presence, and also its most unpredictable. Created by Augustus as a personal bodyguard, it evolved over time into something far more complex than a protective force. Composed of 9 elite cohorts stationed within Rome itself, while the empire's legions remained scattered along distant frontiers, the Guard occupied a unique and dangerous position at the heart of power. They were, at once, the emperor's shield and his greatest vulnerability. They prevented assassinations, and when circumstances shifted, they carried them out. They upheld stability when it suited them, and dismantled it when a more advantageous patron emerged. Their oaths of loyalty were absolute in form, yet conditional in practice, breaking whenever loyalty proved less rewarding than betrayal. By the time of Livia's husband, the Guard had already been responsible for the deaths of numerous emperors: Caligula, Galba, Pertinax, Elagabalus, names that formed a quiet but unmistakable pattern. Every ruler understood that the men stationed outside his chamber door might one day become the instruments of his death, should the balance of power demand it. Yet their influence extended beyond assassination alone. During the interregnum, The uncertain span between a ruler's death and the firm establishment of his successor, the Praetorian Guard effectively controlled Rome. No other military force was permitted within the city's sacred boundary. The Senate lacked the means to enforce its authority, and even the urban cohorts tasked with maintaining order remained subordinate to the Praetorian prefect. For those crucial hours, or sometimes days, the Guard became the only true power within the city. From this reality emerged a tradition seldom addressed openly by historians. During the interregnum, the Guard expected compensation. The imperial treasury would provide a substantial donative, a reward for ensuring a smooth succession and lending their support to the new regime. The torches are fading now, the footsteps have gone quiet, and the palace finally exhales. Somewhere in those vast marble halls, the echo of iron on stone still lingers. A door once opened in fear now stands still. The scent of oil lamps and cold night air drifts through corridors that remember everything. If this quiet journey stayed with you tonight, you may gently like the video or subscribe so we may walk these forgotten paths again, together at another time. Goodbye, and we will meet again.